What's the next level above that or out farther than that? Have you started yet? Because I got one right.
The music is playing right now.
Okay. I'll hold it.
All right. Hello and welcome to Quarter Comics, your weekly comic book reading club. My friends and I get together. We share a few comic issues with each other. Then we get together and talk about those. I'm joined by Emmanuel and Russ. Emmanuel, how you doing this Saturday?
I am amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That's good to hear. And Russ?
I am great. Not 1,000%, but I am rising to the occasion.
That's because you shaved your beard.
Yeah, I know some of my powers have been diminished. And so I have to try to make do.
All right. Gentlemen, let everybody know where they can find you on the interwebs.
All right, you can find me on the gram at Emmanuel, spelled EM_MAN_YOU_EL. Emmanuel. See you there.
And you can find me at on Twitter at Walrus, WALLRUSS. You can also find me at blacksuperherofan.com as well as comiccreatorsofcolor.com. Hope to see you there.
Nice. All right, and this week we've got 6 issues. I'm cheating a little bit. Mine are kind of like one big long issue. And Russ, I know that you enjoyed that. So this week I'm bringing Chrononauts Future Shock #1 and #2. This is written by Mark Miller. It's drawn by Eric Knetz, I believe is his last name. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. This was a 4-issue miniseries that was done. I actually picked up all 4 issues because my local comic shop had it for relatively cheap. Apparently Image released all of these at once. And so instead of just doing a graphic novel or a trade paperback, they tried to sell 4 single issues all on the same day. And it, at least in my comic shop, it failed miserably. So he had to do a sale, and it was like buy 3, get the last one free type of deal. And so I picked it up for relatively cheap. Russ, what are you bringing to the table this week?
I bring a DC comic, believe it or not, Superman Heroes #1. This is the comic where Superman reveals his secret identity to the world. And my second book is from Image. It's called Death of Love. And it's about a guy who takes a pill and can see Cupids. And of course, because, Valentine's Day, I felt I need to find something appropriate.
I did not put those 2 together, to be honest with you, but that worked. Manuel, what do you got?
I got 2. My first pick is The Dreaming. It is by Vertigo, and one of the creators is Neil Gaiman, which is actually one of my favorite creators of all time. And my second pick is by Marvel, The Immortal Hulk, a Great Power #1. This is a current issue. And I should mention that The Dreaming is volume 2, issue 18.
All right. Any initial thoughts before we jump into the comics?
I prefer to wait and share them when we get into the individual comics.
All right, we'll go ahead and do that then. So jumping right into it, we'll go into my first pick, which is Chrononauts Future Shock #1. I was kind of surprised. So I got this as basically, a deal at my shop. It wasn't something that I was that keen on or heard about or was interested in, but it had Mark Miller's name on it, and I was getting a free comic by buying 3. So I thought, why not? I'll pick this up. Started flipping through, saw that there was a spaceship shaped like a guitar, and decided, yeah, I can get into this, and this will be something that I will probably sit down and read. Um, so basically, we've got brothers. They are time travelers. They use I would call it a spaceship. It's a ship shaped like a guitar to travel through time, both forwards and backwards. And this is the first time that they've been able to go forwards in time. So, gentlemen, your thoughts?
Okay. It's going to be hard for me to limit my thoughts because you cheated and you put your two issues, number one and number two. So you made me read two issues of the comic. Uh, it was a bold move. So it's going to be challenging for me to just talk about issue number one and not bleed into issue number two. So I'm going to have to sort of speak to both of them. Number one, I believe everything Mark Millar writes is designed to be a movie. He makes his series. He did this series. And by the way, I enjoyed this and I went and read all of them. So just so you know.
All right.
But when you look at to take the series as a whole, I know there's not going to be a series two. He's like, this is my movie thing. I'm going to make this into a movie and you're going to love it. And I'm never going to do another comic book again because I want the big bucks. Right. And as a movie, this thing works like gangbusters. It has all the visual you need, is all the daring do and outrageousness that you want in a good sci-fi-ish kind of movie. But back to the fact that it's a comic, I was not especially a fan of the art, but the story was a lot of fun. And I sort of gave up on hating the art and just went with it. And I felt like it got better in the beginning. And like the first page, I was like, oh, this is not good. But I got over it. But again, this is a movie or animated series or TV show in print form. That is not at all a bad thing. I like the sci-fi of it. I like that one of the guys is sort of like the Human Torch, kind of just wild and crazy pilot who can do anything and will never die no matter how much an idiot he is. I like the young genius who is really smart in books, but perhaps not as wise as he should be, but has a loving family. Make me think of sort of Reed Richards in a way, like this might what a young Reed Richards might have been, because he is that level of a genius. He does have a family that loves him. He has his best friend that rolls with him. So that I was reminiscent of that. Overall, I say as a series, and it's only 4 books long, I think it's a buy.
Okay.
But curse you for me reading too.
Emmanuel?
All right, my take is I wasn't initially a fan of the art. It's my first thing was kind of scratchy. It's kind of, I could tell a lot of thought has been put into it, a lot of effort, but it's not my personal favorite style. But I then would see panels with great detail. Like there's a panel where his grandmother is in the kitchen and you can see just about everything in the kitchen. You can notice things. It's not a lot of depth and detail to it, but it is there. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the characters themselves. They seem to have backstories. Like they reference trauma in like years past and ambitions for the future. So I really appreciate that the characters themselves aren't really one-dimensional. You see a death in somebody's life and how that's impacted their life, and that whole time travel, you can't undo the thing that brought you there. So I really appreciated this issue. In the show notes, as I was issue by issue, at the very end, my overall statement was like, sign me up. I'm on board. And then when I saw that you had the second issue, my response was, you beautiful bastard, you listened. Like you you gave me an issue too. So it's great that I get to see the continuation of it. It's not so current as it's only on its first issue. So I'm looking forward to reading issue 3, 4, 5, and whatever else. Mark Millar really is one of my favorites as well.
Now, you know he has this deal with Netflix, right? You know this is on point to become a movie
Miller
at
World.
Netflix.
Yeah.
So you might as well read it now so you can complain about how the movie falls short.
Yeah. It reminds me of the television show 7 Days, if you've ever seen it.
I do remember 7 Days.
Premise. Yeah.
So for me, I liked it because it was science and it was ridiculousness, and it was
Hmm.
fun, and it sort of moved at breakneck speed. It didn't. You never really got mired in the explanation or any of that because it just got you there. It got you through it. So
Hmm.
in that, how the story was constructed, I really appreciated that. That it let me get my science fix, and let me get my action fix. And there was stuff that's just beyond belief, like getting funding to make a time ship that's shaped like a guitar. Nobody's paying for that, right?
Right.
And getting trapped in two different time periods and
Hmm.
finding your way back with no technology at all, and
Yeah.
then coming back a few minutes after you left. I'm like, but it was fun. It was
And
really enjoyable.
having all of the Renaissance, well, the four Renaissance artists say cowabunga. Come on, come
Yeah,
on.
right.
Like, how could you not love that?
We got to get our collection. We got Leonardo, we got Michelangelo.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like I said, it's written for people who, it taps into all those things that we sort of like in comics, I think. You know what I mean? We like action. We like to be called on to think just a little bit, but we like to feel something. And this thing, very good at finding different parts to make you feel something. And then moving on because we ain't got time. We got new stuff to do.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed this book, and you might have won this time out. We'll see how things go.
All right. Well, so
What
issue
did you,
one,
man?
issue two. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts were on the. So they make it to the future. They find out that their father is running this utopia.
Not
Um,
father, teacher, right?
is it teacher?
Yeah, instructor.
Yeah,
Okay. The guy that taught them how to
father figure.
yeah,
Hmm.
all the time mechanics and stuff. So he's leading this utopia, but there's something underneath the surface, and it's not quite, you know, the well, any utopia has issues, right?
Hmm.
I don't know. I was just curious what your guys' thoughts were on that because I bought all four because it came as a set, but I wasn't totally into it until I got to towards the end of issue two, and I was like, oh, all right, I'm gonna finish this. I'm gonna read three and four because there's something here. It's not just all fun and games and gimmicks.
So, was it issue one where he realized that the reason they couldn't go into the future is because somebody was stopping them?
Yes, yeah,
Right. So that reminds me of a short story, and I can't remember who wrote it, but it's about a guy who realized in his head how to actually create a time machine that works. He was a scientist, so he had all the math in his head. And as soon as he did, it appeared in front of him.
Mm.
okay,
And when he opened the door, he came out of it to meet himself. Right? He says,
Makes
because of
sense.
course you're going to travel back to the time you
right, right,
figured it out, right? And then he got caught in a time loop because more of him kept coming out the door, and soon they were overpopulating the world. So the fact that, as soon as you realize that there's something else going on, that it shows up was kind of
Mm.
interesting to me, right?
yeah,
And as soon as you see a utopia, there's a downside. There is no story where utopia works,
right,
right? That doesn't exist in our culture. So there's a downside. And there were parts like wait till they're ready or whatever like that. And I could get, because if they pull me into utopia, I probably won't want to leave either, right? Jetpacks for everybody,
right.
full on resurrection level medical. Come on, dude, right? It's, super intelligence at age 8.
Yeah,
How would I not love that? So I would buy it. So, if we got to kill 1,000 people so I can have this life, let's kill those bitches because I'm ready. So, I would not be able to be the hero of this story because if they brought me into this, I am on board and fighting to maintain it. But you already know uh, that it has to fail or something is wrong, or they're basically dropping human beings into a vat of liquid to power it or something.
right.
So as soon as you see a utopia, that's going to happen. So there was some predictability in that respect, right? For me, I didn't know exactly what the linchpin, what the mechanism, what evil is actually happy to maintain it, but I knew there was one, and I knew these guys weren't going to be down with it. because they're the heroes of the story. Certainly not me. But I was already in because they were doing science and action and wonder, because you don't get a lot of wonder in comics like you used to.
Yeah.
So they were doing science, action, wonder. So I'm like, well, if you just keep spoon feeding me this, then I will sit at the table and go, yes, more, please. And so it wasn't as I was already on board before I guess you were on.
Okay. All right.
An issue, I've only read the first two issues that you submitted, but my question, and it may be hypothetical, is are we leaning more towards a Minority Report type situation where he's punishing or he's doing things before the enemy is has perpetuated the murder? Like, is he just taking out people before they actually commit the
I
crime?
got to cut you
Or,
off right there. I would never dare tell you. I'm only going to say, read the
yeah,
books. There's two more issues. You have access.
which incites
Uh,
curiosity, which I'm glad.
yeah. So, and I think that you will enjoy how it works out. It's only two more books. He
Yeah.
already made us read two. So I'm just
Mm.
going to say, read two more and just get it done. Read the story. And then when it comes out on Netflix, we can revisit this conversation.
Yeah. The other thing I will say too is there's another 4-issue Chrononauts miniseries that
Oh,
explains the backstory of the brothers.
I like that. I have to go look for that.
Yeah. So, all right. Moving on from my 2 issues, then. Russ, we'll go to your first book.
Okay, my first book is not one I would normally pick. It's Superman Heroes #1, just came out this week. And it is the story of sort of the fallout of Superman revealing his identity to the world. And I'll tell you what I said in my notes. There were actually moments where I actually gave a damn about Superman's world. Because normally I don't. When you got all those powers, I'm like, whatever your problems are, dude, you got every power there is, right? You'll never die, right? So it was interesting to see how the world works when you have a Superman there and how all this affects it. And that part of the story interests me, so I thought I'd share it.
All right. I'll jump in. The art was not the most impressive. So I had some difficulty with that. And there's 2 artists in this book because
Yeah,
the
I
style.
think they do each one. That like one artist does one arc, another artist does another arc. So there's more than one story here.
Yeah, so the artist that did the first part of the book, I wasn't a huge fan of his work, but the artist that did the second arc, where we've got Bruce Wayne and Diana talking, that was pretty cool. Um, Overall, I was trying to figure out where Bendis starts and stops and where Matt Fraction starts and stops, and I was wondering like did one of them do the plotting and one of them did the dialogue? Because it seems very Bendis dialogue like. Um, and I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Matt Fraction. Hot take. I hate Saga. It's not one of my favorite comics.
Well, you're going to get it on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kept having the feeling like I've heard this story before, and it's hasn't he gone full Superman and revealed that he was Clark Kent before?
Possibly back in the old days when
Uh,
Superman could move the Earth out of orbit and all the other stuff that he did. He had super ventriloquism. I know anything could have happened during those times, but I don't think in the last decade or so that this story has happened. Oh, there was. That's not true. In the New 52, when it first started, Lois Lane revealed he was Clark Kent to the world.
okay.
Yes.
And then he lost part of his powers and he was basically Power Man on a motorcycle, fighting that sort of thing. And that went, and then that sort of got, well, it basically got erased when the New 52 got upgraded because of whatever they did with Dr. Manhattan. So that never happened.
Okay. Um, Overall, I did like it. There was some great moments between the characters, specifically the conversation between Wonder Woman and Batman, and
Yes.
just seeing them as humans was really good. And I kept thinking like, damn, I wish this was a story about their relationship because I've never really seen that before. Like that's a new concept for me. Um, and maybe because I don't read a whole lot of DC books. Um,
Yes.
but that bleeding into the conversation that Superman has with his former teacher, that was really cool. Um, so it ends nicely. I don't know that I would pick up Superman villains. I don't know that it grabbed me enough to read the next issue, but there's a lot of great character moments, and I mean that just screams Bendis, and it pulled me through the book.
All right, nice. I My take is I'm really interested to see how Bendis will write himself out of this corner. As it seems as if Bendis is taking a lot of liberties with the Superman family, and I appreciate it because I haven't seen Superman with a son. I haven't seen that relationship, and then you got to see John Kent. Unfortunately, that was taken away from us too soon, I think. But I still like the fact that he's living his life doing his thing. John Kent, all of 17, 18 years of age. But now Superman and Lois's relationship. There's been a few issues prior to this where they've been cavalier with their relationship. He's publicly seen embracing Lois and kissing Lois. And granted, it's in like Oakland or some weird place, not Metropolis, but it's still public. So that's why those rumors were showing up that Lois is cheating on Clark Kent with Superman, and I'm really anxious to see how the public will react when this godlike figure with all this power, when they find out that he's been lying to them. He's such a pillar of truth, justice, and the American way. So the first thing in that is truth. What happens when this powerhouse, this godlike figure, is outed as a liar? So I'm really interested to see if that's going to have any effect in Bendis's writing, if he will address that at all. That's my major concern. That's my whole takeaway with this whole story arc, is that he has to be infallible, this superhero, Superman character, but now he has flaws. What does that mean? Does Lex now capitalize on that? That'd be one of the smartest moves he's ever made. We'll see.
Well, yeah, he has to. The problem with Superman is that he's dead, basically unassailable, right? Superman's morals cannot be compromised. Superman cannot be killed or destroyed. He is all powerful and can hear you when you whisper his name anywhere on the planet. How do you write a story that makes you care about someone like that? And the way you do it, the way they do it for Spider-Man, is they harp on flaws. So because he has flaws, it is now somewhat interesting. Mm-hmm. Right now, you feel like, because you may have missed the last 500 Superman books, right? Whatever, he can do anything, right? But because he has flaws, what makes Batman great? Batman is basically an open sore of flaws, right? And yet he still overcomes them almost in every book. You know what I mean? Even Punisher in his own way, it's like, nothing but a flawed dude with skills. But it is those flaws that make them interesting. It is one of the things that Marvel tends to do better than DC in a lot of ways, because DC heroes are basically really shiny avatars, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you give Superman flaws is exactly what you need to see at DC. It's exactly what needs to happen to make Superman relevant, to make you care, and to make people buy those books. So I think it's a good move. And maybe you don't write him out of it. Maybe for the next 20 years, Superman just has flaws. Like, I was reading somewhere, and it may not be that, what is this guy's name again? Who's the writer? Bendis. It may not be all Bendis. I read, who was the guy who's writing Batman? He recently killed Alfred in Batman.
It's the guy that did Miracle Man.
Yes.
That same guy, right?
So he was like, they were like, how dare you kill, he did an interview, and he said, when I brought it to them, I was, talking about how to bring Alfred back. And he went, and DC said, why? And he was like, right? Because the powers that be know that you got to shake this up, right? This is how Marvel often wins, is that every freaking who in Marvel is not flawed? What Marvel character is flawless, right? In fact, it's, think about Daredevil, who has barely noticeable powers, right? And is super flawed. And every Daredevil one is just great. Like, you can't mess up Daredevil if you gave it to a kid to write. You know what I mean? Because he's just so flawed and so, not really capable of doing this. So, and then here you bring in somebody from who basically is from Marvel, come to DC. You brought him to bring flaws. That's why he's here. And so I say, what if the DC powers that be want Superman to have flaws? Want someone to right away that he doesn't lose any of his powers or any of his capabilities and yet is flawed, right? We need some writer to do that. Who's that guy? You have your guy. There is no corner. What if this is just the status quo?
Okay, that's a good point. I would say that that's probably one of the reasons I don't really read Superman books, is because he's not all that interesting. Because I guess, on a character level, he doesn't really have those flaws. And I think that's probably why Smallville did as well as it did, and why there's so many people that were, or why it had such a rabid fan base, is because you basically have, you have him at such a young age before he's developed all of the characteristics that we know and love of Superman.
So this is good for DC. Whether you like Matt Fraction or whoever, or Bendis, whatever Bendis is doing is shaking up the status quo, right? Whether for good or for evil, it is bringing buzz. It is making you think about things differently, and it is daring. And you want some experimentalness. You want to try new things in comics. You don't want the same old Batman books, right? You don't want the same old crackers.
Yeah.
You want some, you need something more than saltines. At least some Cheez-Its once in a while.
All right.
There's a line where Booster Gold, the character Booster Gold, is talking to Superman, and Booster's from the future. He's saying, like, you don't know how long it's been, like how much I've been wanting to just say something, like blurt out this moment, and what happens next you're gonna love. Which I think in part way he's talking to the audience as well. Like, what happens after this big reveal, after this arc where Soup says, I am Clark Kent. This is what I'm interested in seeing, how the public reacts and how everyone reacts to Clark Kent being Superman. And then the whole glasses thing. Like, come on. That was a horrible disguise. Somebody should address that as well.
Well, no. Who was the guy? I forgot the writer. When they redid Superman and powered him down a little bit.
Telepathic abilities.
No, not only that, how he walked. When he walked as Clark Kent, he stooped. How he bumbled and made that memory of you, of this is who Clark is, and knocks things down and bumps into them. Right? How he talks about wholesome things. There's much more than just the glasses. It's a form of hypnotism, and that I put this Clark Kent in your mind as this kind of being, and that is totally different from who you believe Superman is. Right? Lois always called him Smallville, not because of how he looked, but because of how he acted, how he behaved, how he walked, how he was unsophisticated. Right? So it was never just the glasses, right? Even though maybe when they originally did it, that's all it was. John Byrne, I don't know, he did a Man of Steel thing where they sort of redid Superman, and they sort of broke all that down as to all the things he puts into the Clark Kent persona, because that's him dressing up. All right.
Okay.
All right. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Okay. My next book, in honor of Valentine's Day, is Death of Love. I chose issue number 2 because that's sort of where it hits the ground running. It's about this guy who can't get a date, who is hopelessly in love with this woman, who only sees him as a friend, and there's nothing he can do. And he goes to some seminar to get help, and that doesn't work. And then, because he's at that age range and that culture where drugs abound, that someone says, try this. And like that wouldn't work in my age range. I'm like, get the hell out of here with that, right?
Yeah.
But some people, and if you're desperate enough, he tries this, and after he tries it, he can see Cupids. And then the story continues. Anyone care to comment?
Manuel, I'll let you go first if you want.
Sure. This was fun. I think you have, nah, I know you have become famous for just throwing us a wacky, weird curveball of a story. This was one of those. And it was very appropriate for the timing, this being one day after Valentine's Day. So this story was really good. The art, not really all that great, but it didn't distract me. I understand what they were going for with the contrast between like the colors. Sometimes when the main character's in a mood, he's like just dark blue, and then the main character, well, not main character, but the main effective character is like just really colorful. The cherubim, the Cupid, which he, the main character, always corrects. What's the plural of Cupid? Cupide? I don't know. But that was a little play on words. I appreciated that. This story was good. It was fun. You get to I actually followed along with the main character in this entire transition from just being like a regular, normal, loveless guy into this guy that's can see cupids, like can see these mythological creatures, and now he's wondering about his insanity or sanity. He's soliciting help from his friends. He actually kills. It's insane. It's insane, and it's beautiful. It's lovely. It's wacky. There's no like romantic resolution to it. It's just all fun, and I appreciated it.
Have you guys seen A Scanner Darkly, the movie?
Yes, I've seen it.
I don't think I've seen it.
Okay. This book is like the anti after school special. I feel like.
Take drugs.
Yeah, that I liked that aspect of it because it's just so goofy and off the wall. And like Russ said, like I'm not at an age where that would ever be appealing. But it's fun to watch this character who clearly does not have his shit together, just fall into this trap of I'm just gonna keep taking these heart pills to keep seeing cupids because no one believes me, and willingly spiraling into insanity. Like like that is preferable over his everyday normal existence. And maybe there's an allegory there. I don't know. But it's wrapped up in this very comical veneer. And so I thought, like from a story perspective, it was written well. I actually really like the art. I think that it's pseudo sort of graffiti character design. The colors work well for me. Yeah, when he kills one of the cupids at the end, I was like, "Oh, this is what is going to happen next?" Because they were already a little insane, the way that they portrayed them. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was good. I'm curious to see what happens when the arrows are used not to make people fall in love. Like, is there any other magical element to the arrows, or are they just arrows when they're not,
So this is a 5-issue series. So it's completed at the end of the 5th issue. So if you care to read more, I mean, if you're going to read 2 more books of this other thing, I'm saying jump in on this one.
Right.
There is a resolution. Then you have to ask questions like, where did the pills come from?
Right.
And who is the Cupid's boss?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, if you're going to escalate it, and then you think, okay, now they escalated in this book, right? Can you imagine how they're going to escalate it at the end of the next one? And they will. So I think the art and the story go well together because this is some zany craziness. It is certainly drug related. So if you look at the art, like whoever wrote this might have been high, or whoever drew this might have been a little high, or sees the world in a certain way because they're kind of always high. All of that sort of fits. Uh, 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 Even though, and I'm not a fan of the art in and of itself, but put together with this story, I thought it was a very good match.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes the writer finds the right artist and they get it all exactly how they both want it.
Right.
And I felt like this did that. Would I recommend this artist to anyone else? No. But you might consider looking and see what other books this artist have drawn and see if those are books you might read if you like this. Because there's still a human being behind this art and he's drawn to certain things too. So I liked it. I liked that the Cupid was cussing like a satyr and like, bring it, bitch. I was like, that's how I want my Cupids to talk. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let's get down to the realness of it, right? Like I can have a drink with a Cupid like that,
Yeah.
And so it plays with all those misconceptions. It plays with all those, and it's in certainly a culture younger than us, but there is a culture that will try a drug just on the strength of, like, I remember some young guy told me, never be afraid to go +1. I'm like, dude, what does that even mean? That's stupid. Right? You already someplace you ain't never been and you were like, I want to double down, give me another. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you're drunk, why are you taking another drink? Right? You're already there. Where do you think you're going to land? It's like, you afraid, dude? I'm like, no. So, and I'm thinking this is that culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that culture is sort of funny to watch. And so throw in the Cupids and the everything and the bring it bitch and the murder, because I like a good murder.
Right.
Yeah.
The straight up hatchet murder, that's great. and yet his name was Binky. The angel on top of all that, right? Not like, Ferdinand or Alfredo or something like that. His name is still Binky, even with all that profanity.
Right.
So I thought this, and I read the whole series because I liked the book. And I brought you number 2 because I think this is a jumping on point that says, come on, you want a little more of this.
All right.
I like at the very end, the little diatribe that the writer gives about the culture, about our online dating and how difficult it is to find love, or how easy it is to find love nowadays. But the generic love, and what is that? It was insightful, I think, to kind of jump into the mind of the writer, not necessarily in story form, but in just, this is his soapbox on the matter. It was interesting.
I did not read that. I will go back and read it because I just read the first sentence and it says it's 2018 and we have literal sex ATMs on our phones. So
I don't know about you, but that just caught my attention.
Right?
Am I missing something? What's going? Where's these apps? Where's these ATMs?
Right. All right, Manuel, do your first issue then.
All right. Mine is The Dreaming. It is in the Sandman universe. The publisher is Vertigo. And let me give you more specifics about The Dreaming. Mariguette, I may be butchering the first name, Mariguette Savage and Yannick. Yeah, these names I am going to butcher. Pikete, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I personally liked the art, but you guys tell me what you think about it. It is in a dream world. If you're familiar with the Sandman universe, you'll at least have some sort of vantage point when it comes to this book. I'm not gonna talk too much about it because I really want to hear you guys' thoughts. But it's in a dream world, and as fantastic as a dream is, this book is very fantastic as well. You guys' thoughts?
All right. Well, I did not let you pick new issues because I wanted to talk about this on the stream with you. Dude, what the fuck? Like this comic is so out there. I went back. I went back to. I was like, okay, this is version 2 or volume 2. Like, what is volume 1? Is there anything that I can latch onto from the older issues that will help explain some of what the hell is happening in this comic?
Mm.
Could not find it. Um, it's chaotic
Mm-hmm.
but beautiful. Um, the words don't mean a whole lot, but it carries you through the story. Like, I don't, I don't really know how to describe this. It's not quite like anything I've ever seen or read before. I feel like it would be stale if they did explain some of the stuff. Um,
Mm.
part of the allure once you get in a couple pages is not knowing and hoping that you can know somehow what the hell's going on. Um, and in a way, it does reflect the title, The Dreaming, right? Like this, if you step back just as a solo issue, and you think about like all of what happened in the issue, and this Greyhound bus is speeding through, but we've got these different characters, and there's stuff going on inside her head while she's on the bus, but her in the bus in this world may also be a dream. Um, it's almost like some crazy dreams that I've had. Um,
Exactly that.
And what were you under the influence of when you had
honestly, okay, so I put in the notes, I think, I wish that I could have been able to passively enjoy this so that I could have been stoned. Because I think that it would have, that type of mindset, may have allowed me to enjoy this in a different way.
Mm.
But yeah, those are my rambly thoughts about this comic.
Okay, so here I go. Strap in. Um, I thought the art was pleasing, right?
Yeah.
So I enjoyed looking at the pictures.
Mhm.
That being said, that's where it ends for me.
It's like Kim Kardashian. Here comes a big butt. But
There was nothing, even after angrily more than one reading or attempting to read, there was nothing for me to grab onto and follow that I could find. It was, I felt like that if you erase all the words in the word bubbles and we three wrote the words in the word bubbles that we wanted, it would have been a book to behold because it looked good. But whatever story they were telling or thought they were telling or abstractly telling or whatever, no. If I had bought this book, I would have been pissed. Right? Because you want a comic book to give you a little something, make you feel something, right? And confusion is not what I pay for. You know what I mean? I'm not just like, how is this even a marketable book, right? How do you justify making someone spend $5 or something for this book? Are you freaking kidding me?
How did it get to issue 18? That's
right.
Enough people are buying this.
All right. What I really think attract?
Go ahead.
No. I'll say it afterwards.
Okay. I think how it got to this issue is this universe everybody loves. This is the Sandman universe, right? Yeah. So you have diehard followers that will defy reason and logic and spend money on books that may or may not be worthy of their time or money. But because fans are, which fan is short for fanatic, right? Fans are of this universe are legion, right? And they may have been enough to carry a book, and they may have actually been satisfied with the miasma of whatever this is. I don't even know the substance that this book is. And again, it's pretty while it's doing whatever the hell it's doing, right? Like, oh, this drug makes me feel good. I'm doing stupid shit, but it doesn't matter because everything looks amazing. And that's, I was very angry. All right. I felt like I cannot get that time back, right? and then I had to try to read it again to do it justice, and I can't get that time back. And if this is the comic I give away to people who come visit me at my booth. Here's a comic. Take it and run. I don't care. You know, like I got a stack full of comics just for visiting me. Grab a comic. This is the one I give away because it looks good, and that's it. Sorry, dude.
No, no, not at all. I am actually happy that it elicited such a strong emotion. I would much rather you like it than have that emotion, but still, it elicited an emotion. What really drew me to this comic was the fact that it's such a dream. It's so dreamlike. There's the characters, Cain and Abel, and they kill each other on a consistent basis. Like if anyone is into lore or reading the Bible, or whatever, like the first recorded murder in the Bible is when Cain killed Abel. So like they play on that. You have this raven that talks. It's sort of kind of likened unto Edgar Allan Poe, and it's these characters that. And this is the only issue that I've read. I haven't read issue 1 through 17 leading up. So this is essentially just me jumping into the Sandman universe. I already know of Neil Gaiman in the Sandman universe, but I never really knew it intimately. And I really like this because this felt like I was reading my dream. Things that don't make sense, I've seen or heard of in passing, but they have these characters, and these characters are doing things that don't make sense, that are just there. They're putting on a show. They're entertaining me, and it has no depth in reality. It just is what it is. And there's this quest. There's these figures, nameless, faceless figures, who are chasing me. It seems like, and I 100% understand your disdain or dislike of it. It just seems like a dream of mine. It seems like a dream of mine that somebody has put into a comic book and said, hey, I recorded that dream. Here it is.
So Cain and Abel are actually DC mainstays from the 60s. So there was a book, Cain's first appearance. This Cain's first appearance was in a DC book called House of Mystery, number 175, back in 1968. Abel's first appearance was in 1969. So they have been, House of Mystery has been a DC comic for some time. So they've been there. And I recognized them only because I had seen their faces before in older books, because on occasion they just show up as some random thing. Like there's deep in DC mythology, and let's bring out something you don't remember seeing. And that was the thing I tried to latch onto. Right? Like I know a little bit about these characters from DC's take on them. And nope, couldn't do it. Sorry. Disdain. That's the word. I'm going to write that down and look it up so I can add that to my functional vocabulary and use it regularly.
That's awesome. I really, again, I like the fact that it elicits that emotion from you. You have this disdain.
If there was some way to make sense of all of the shit that's going on, I would totally read more. But I tried. I went back and I like thumbed through a few other issues, and I just couldn't find anything to latch onto to like keep me grounded.
In the overall impressions, I may have encapsulated the entire synopsis of the book. Anybody interested in reading a series that's already 18 issues in and not knowing what the fuck is going on? It's a real life dream. I'm annoyed and equally pleased simultaneously, so I had to share.
All right.
I want to say thank you.
I want to say you're welcome.
All right. Should we move on to the last comic?
Sure.
All right.
All right. The last comic is The Immortal Hulk. This is issue number 1 and subtitled Great Power. It's a current issue, and it showcases your favorite Hulk, Bruce Banner, as well as one of your favorite Spider-Men, Peter Parker. I'll let you guys take it from here.
Okay, so this book is written in the mighty Marvel manner. It just is sort of classic Marvel, and this is not a dig. It's classic Marvel type
Yeah.
of book. It's probably a one shot, and it obviously takes place before the current uh, uh, incarnation of the Incredible Hulk in the comics, and I think it even says something to that effect. Like the story takes place before this and before that, so it's the sort of the OG Hulk. Uh, I like the art. It was enjoyable. Again, this for me is a by the numbers Marvel, Mighty Marvel comic book. Like if you read the book How to Draw Art in the Mighty Marvel Manner, you get this. How to Write in the Mighty Marvel Manner, you get this. This is classic and has all the elements. You see all the things about Peter Parker that you feel may not get said all the time. You see things about Bruce Banner and the Hulk that don't always get said. They get said here. And you get to see the dynamic. Then you throw in Fantastic Four because how can you not have a little fantastic in your life? And this becomes a full-on, almost a Marvel team-up type of book, but maybe a little something more. It has depth. You see fights you kind of always wanted to see. This would never happen other than in this book, and it still leaves some questions, but you're okay if they're not answered, and you get sort of resolution and characters get new respect for each other. So this is very much, if you like Marvel at all, this is very much a classic book that I think people could talk about and reread. It's a book you can always hand out to someone and say, here, try a Marvel book.
Yeah.
Spider Hulk, Spider Hulk.
That version of that theme song did run through my head when I saw the cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Classic Marvel sums it up. Originally, when I saw the cover of this, I was like, I don't know, what is this what if bullshit? But no, when I got into it, I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like I love what they did with the way that the gamma power works and the fact that it can be transferred, and like that's very interesting. And Hulk's never been a character that I've been all that interested in. Which coincidentally is similar to the way that I felt last week about Thor #2, which I went back and bought issue 1 and 3 as well as 2 after last week. Um, this one I saw on the shelf too. I'll probably go back and pick this one up just to own it. Um, it's really cool. It's classic Marvel. I like the way that they sort of weave this story into the regular continuity, and like I said, just added that extra dimension of to Hulk's powers that I've never really experienced or seen before. If they have done anything like that in the past, it wasn't memorable for me. Um, I'm trying to think. There was some interesting character moments between Spider-Man or Peter Parker and Bruce Banner too, when they retreat to the island. Um, it's interesting that when the Hulk power or the gamma inhabits Peter Parker, it's like a werewolf syndrome. I don't know if we'll ever see any type of explanation for that later on, like if it's something that interacts with like his spider sense or like why that happens. It's just at nighttime that he turns into the Hulk.
I think it harkens back to when the Hulk first began. And that is sort of how it worked. Like this is a new Hulk. And so you have to start off with the place of when like Bruce Banner's original Hulk,
Well, yeah,
classic. Yeah.
When Bruce gets angry, the Hulk comes out, right? And this was very different. Like the power reacts differently with Peter Parker. Um,
I think there's an incarnation of the Hulk where that happens, where Dark, because I think Joe Fixit was like that, right?
I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not
I think
sure.
when Joe Fixit, the Great Hulk, first came out, he only came out at night.
Okay.
They kept mentioning nighttime is his time.
Hmm.
So maybe that is the case.
But yeah, the purple pants. Gotta throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't he just get unstable molecule purple draws and just wear them with everything and just be done with it.
I would have
Yeah,
thought
they
that
should.
Reed would have given them to him in this issue because that was a perfect
Hmm.
time. Instead, they give him just regular purple pants again.
Hmm.
That they just have and they whipped up for him, right?
Right? Yeah. Uh, the one thing that did confuse me is what the hell is Hulk just doing wandering into the ocean at the end?
Going back to the going back to the Hulk cave.
Right?
Oh,
Is he
it's
gonna?
underground
Is he like wading into the ocean so that he can leap out and then?
because the mighty Marvel manor requires him to go off into the sunset
Yeah.
or the moonset in this case. Because you have to have this imagery. Like I said, this is Mighty Marvel Manor stamped all over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Overall,
imagery is great.
I I like this way more than I thought I was going to.
Same here.
Yeah, it was an enjoyable ride.
Yeah, much like the dreaming issue, I got this for the feeling. I chose this issue for the feeling it gave me, and
Good
I'm
choice.
glad you all concur.
Yeah, indeed. All right, so we got some stuff at the end of the show notes here. Uh, I'm assuming this is Russ. You added this stuff.
Of course.
You want to go ahead and pose the questions to us?
Okay, so I've had argument with actual comic writers. Well, Thor is a god. So therefore, I'm like, no, Loki is God and get his ass kicked all the time. Does being a god, small g, automatically mean you operate at Superman level? Does that automatically mean that? I'll give you bench press 20 tons. I'll give you that. Spider-Man's 10 tons. I'll give you God, you're more durable. But that doesn't make you bench press a planet level, right? Thor is a god. Can Thor bench press a planet? Do we really believe that Thor, prior to the cosmic upgrade, of course, do we really believe that Thor is on par with Superman? And is it simply because he's a god? Straight up punch out in space so nobody gets hurt, like Goku. Go out in space, duke it out.
Who wins, Thor or
Who
Superman?
wins? Yes.
Um, I say Superman only because I feel like he has a level of intelligence that Thor doesn't.
And will never have.
Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think so in terms of the power question, I think they are on the same level. The difference being that mentally they're not in the same realm.
So is it because he's a god? Like, how do you say he and Superman, like, for example, let's just say 100 tons he can bench press, right? How do you know Superman is not bench pressing 200 tons? Right. Once we get to like 100 tons, we assume everybody's at the same power level, right? Sentry, all these other people, but they're not.
Okay.
Right. And even at the regular street level, you know what I mean? Luke Cage and Spider-Man at different strength levels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Wrecking Crew, different strength levels, right? But we kind of know there's different levels, and we can understand that. But once we get to a certain number, once we get to Thor, we assume everybody who operates at that level is kind of the same. Hyperion, Sentry, Blue Marvel, but there's no real. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that Thor isn't powerful, but how do you say, because we've seen a Superman book where he's bench pressing, 45 whatever tons with one hand. You know what I'm saying? 45 billion tons with one hand. How do you say he's at the same power level? What do we have? What is out there that says that they are? You know what I mean? What's out there in the universe that says, do we just assume because Thor can't beat the Sentry?
Yeah, I think we do just assume based on the fact that he's quote unquote little G
god.
Yeah, little G god.
Yeah, and so I take umbrage with that, and that granted, I give him great power in the Marvel universe and probably one of the most powerful terrestrial type heroes, certainly, right? But is he more powerful than Silver Surfer?
Maybe
on a cosmic level.
Now he is, because
so
he's
now
got
you're
the
gonna get
power
into my
cosmic.
next question, but go ahead.
I think you can put Omega level mutants in the same conversation, right? Because they're treated the same in comics, right? Like
Yeah.
they're on this tier level that's just beyond, you know.
Now, I will say that maybe they're at a power level that we have lost, or humans have lost the ability to calculate. Like once it gets to this number, we don't know.
Yeah.
We just put them in this class, right? And I'll give them the same class, Superman. But I don't see any evidence that he's able to do the level of feats and the kind of feats that Superman has frequently done in all his incarnations, right? In addition to not having the super speed, right? But straight up strength level, I forgot who I was talking to, and I don't know if I want to name drop, but there was a writer I talked to that says he's a god, right? And then there's some people that believe because he's a god, he gets power from belief, and that the more people believe in him, the stronger he becomes,
That's
right?
Yeah.
And
that would be
and yet there's nothing in the mythos of Thor and Odin that say that is a true thing,
Well, they did
even in
that.
the comics.
They did that with Captain America, though, right?
Yeah, but again, it's sort of a, you know what I'm saying? That's a weird this thing. That's a I made this up and now you're gonna take it as canon, and I'm not going for it.
Okay.
Right? Thor had great power before the amount of human beings believed in him was before, right? And granted, I'll even give him because they're letting him now. Apparently, he can hear prayers, right? But you know, and but that's since he got the Odin Force, right?
Right.
Because Odin passed that to him.
Yeah.
But to say that Thor is Superman level because he's a god, because we've seen in the movies where the Hulk just smashed up Loki. Loki's a god,
Yeah.
right? That doesn't mean that he's Superman level. And remember, Sentry beat the shit out of Thor,
Yeah.
right? So, and I would think Sentry would be more a match for Superman with similar power sets and all that. And I would
he
say
was
that
Superman's answer.
yes, but he was above Thor and strength and power.
Well, I was gonna say, I might be misremembering this, but the most recent Annihilation series, I brought a couple of issues on. The final issue of that, I want to say that Nova, is it Richard Rider?
Mm-hmm.
He had enough power to take on Sentry, but he's not god level.
But he also has the Green Lantern power battery of the Marvel Universe, right? The Nova Force. Nova's are Green Lanterns, right?
Yeah.
Right? So if you have the entire power battery of the Marvel Universe, maybe for 5 minutes or 30 seconds, because there's times when even Iron Man was able to get enough power to get a few punches in at that level, but is it sustainable? Like if Green Lantern puts all the Green Lantern energy into one punch, can he knock out Superman? It's a lot of fucking energy.
Yeah.
Right? So, but can he sustain that? That's a different conversation.
Okay. Yeah.
And on the flip side, we know Superman is a battery for solar radiation. And some people think, well, Superman, just get him away from the sun. I'm like, but he's a hell of an efficient battery. He can be at peak power level for weeks before you notice a slowdown, right? Yeah. He's not just a battery you get with the copper top. You know what I mean? So there are people like, well, because there's a hate on Superman. Well, you get him out of the red sun and he wouldn't survive, right? And let's talk about the fight with Goku. Goku can't breathe in space, right? You hit him into space. Goku got the instant transmission, and that's his answer to super speed. But you knock him into space. Even when he first turned Super Saiyan, because we've all seen it, right? Yeah. When the planet was destroyed, Goku was going to die.
Yeah.
If not saved by somewhere where there was an oxygen thing, right? And Superman doesn't breathe in space, but we know him and even the Hulk can hold his breath for hours.
Right.
Goku, no. Right? So, I'm not really a Superman fanboy, and I'm not trying to be in this conversation. But don't say because Thor is a god. That means everybody that's strong in the pantheon of gods is automatically Superman level. That's bullshit.
Right.
Does that mean Hercules is Superman level? Does that mean, you know what I'm saying? Let me go through all the pantheons, right? Does that mean Ares is Superman level? No. What the fuck?
Who would you think would win with Worldbreaker Hulk and Superman?
Okay. Where is Worldbreaker Hulk still just a gamma being?
Essentially.
Does he get power from any other source other than the gamma energy?
His rage.
Can he fly?
He cannot fly.
So if you because the Hulk has a certain amount of mass, let's say
Hmm.
he's 500 pounds. Superman can hit him, maybe not hurt him, and knock him into space. What can the Hulk do about that?
In space is no leverage.
So Superman has super speed, so he keep hitting him and knock him in the sun, right? This is not even a hard thing to do. Or just send him to the moon until he goes unconscious from lack of oxygen, right? Wait till he starts in the Bruce Banner, bring him back at super speed so you don't kill him, right?
Okay.
When you say power level, there's more than just and again, I really am not a fan of Superman, but don't just be like because he's so strong, he's Superman level. No, right? And durability, right? The Hulk can bleed. How many adamantium claws have cut through them and brought out green blood? Right? The Hulk can bleed. He can heal, but Superman don't really bleed too often.
Okay.
Right? And Superman has his own healing factor. And I'm saying that Superman is way OP. He is
Hmm.
way OP. I know that. But Thor is not Superman level strength. There's no freaking evidence of that. But why does the comic world at large, believe he's a god, therefore he's at that level?
I think it stems from the fact that on the Avengers team, he is the most akin to Superman. You
Agreed.
really
He even
can't
has a
equate
red cape. Yes.
exactly. So they
That's where the
would
similarity
kind
ends.
of exactly. They would kind of put them head to head when there's really no comparison.
And you got to think Avengers got a lot of non-powered folks. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
low-level powered folks.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned this to me, and disagree as you might, that DC is essentially gods trying to be men, and Marvel is men trying to be gods. There's some flaws in that, but I think it stands true for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. And I remember reading an article in which they likened all the DC to certain Greek gods, each of them, with Batman being God of War, I think, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
and Superman being Apollo, I believe. And even there's another Superman analog called Apollo, right? In Wildstorm, and he
Yeah.
has similar powers. So I get it, but no.
I
Go
think that
ahead.
that's true with Kingdom Come, especially.
Yes.
That's sort of the cornerstone of that story. Is they are sort of these gods that have left and come back.
Mhm.
Um, I'm curious. Okay, so your next question on here, Russ, is cosmic power more powerful than mutant power
Or gamma power,
or
or
god
God power.
power? Um, I don't know that I can accurately answer that question with with like pointing to references. I would say that the way that I would write it would probably be that mutant power in a way stems from cosmic power. That the mutation that takes place is intrinsically linked to the fabric of the cosmos.
Funny you would say that,
Because
because in the current run where Franklin Richards is losing his power, and there's a actual one of a single issue just came out, and Professor Xavier asked Reed Richards to let Franklin come to the island, and because maybe they can help him in a way Reed Richards does not.
right,
And then there's a theory that there's a God, some kind of connection that certain superheroes get their energy from. Because if you think the Human Torch can shoot flames or whatever, but where is he replenishing it from?
right.
Right? Reed Richards can stretch almost to infinity, but where that energy, where is that coming from? And maybe there's something cosmic, but is cosmic beat gamma?
Or is gamma just another flavor of cosmic?
Right? And then what the fuck is cosmic?
It's midichlorians.
Shit. I think cosmic is just solar radiation from other stars. When Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four went to space, they had the cosmic radiation because they went somewhere new. And, the sun emits all the radiations, right? I mean, is cosmic just a certain sliver of solar radiation?
Yeah.
But and just because you're mutated by cosmic radiation, does that automatically make you more powerful than the average mutation?
Mm.
You know what I mean? And there's some weak ass mutants out there too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
You know, bench pressing like 700 pounds and stuff like that. But that's my mutant power. I'm strong.
Or if you're gold balls.
Yes, right.
Gold
So,
balls. He
Amanda,
was
do you know
pivotal in
about gold
bringing
balls?
you.
but yeah, I think that in a lot of heads of the fans, they have decided without Marvel telling them that these things have meaning, like Thor is Superman level, like cosmic powers trump other powers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, because the power cosmic it rests in the Silver Surfer, is that more powerful than the Odin Force?
Well, and can you measure it? How much of the power
Yeah.
cosmic does Silver Surfer embody? Because he
All
clearly
right.
doesn't have as much as Galactus, but Galactus gave him some of his, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
And then the Fantastic Four were hit with cosmic rays.
right.
So, do they have, you know what I mean? Are they more powerful than most mutants? I don't know the answer to that. And then how many Hulk related villains and heroes? And if you look at the current incarnation of Rick Jones, that may be a whole nother conversation because he seems to be just using it like Professor Xavier and walking around glowing and shit. And even what the She-Hulk Hulk is now able to shoot gamma ray beams from her body now.
There's even Braun. I forget his first name, but somebody Chow. The
Yeah, he
yeah.
used to be he's what does they say? One of the fifth smartest person on the planet or whatever.
Right.
And he used to hang around with Hulk for a while, and then he sort of tried to save Hulk and became his own Hulk by drawing his energy off of. And then his Hulk actually was messed up because when he turned into another level Hulk, that Hulk had all his intelligence. So
Mhm.
that's and so basically he had to be depowered somewhat, and now he's just called Braun.
Right.
But so I feel like cosmic power is just the source of your power. It doesn't mean you're stronger or faster or any of that,
Right.
right? So if your power comes from the Odin Force, it doesn't mean that you are automatically Superman level. You know what I mean? Granted, if you stay on planet, how many people are punching at Thor's weight class? Hulk and who else? Who you got? The Thing is not quite there, right? Just
No.
falling a little short.
What's the and forgive my ignorance with this because I don't read X-Men comics. What's the distinction between the X-Men mutants, well, not X-Men mutants, but mutants and Inhumans? I know there's some sort of genetic distinction there.
Matt, feel free.
So the Inhumans were humans that were transformed by the Terrigen Mist.
Hmm.
Um,
Who created Terrigen Mist?
it was the Kree, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're basically aliens, I guess. Because well, you can elaborate, Russ, I guess. But doesn't the Terrigen Mist change your makeup to Kree of some kind?
But only if you're genetically predisposed, right? Like if you're a descendant of,
I I don't think so
or
because
does it?
they've had a couple
Oh,
books where like a shit ton of people get exposed to it, and now they're Inhumans.
oh,
So the Kree are at the end of their evolutionary cycle, and they needed some kind of jump start because they want to continue to grow, but they can't. So they tried it on some humans and sort of create their experiment, which was way back, I don't know how many years, or even if it's 100 years ago, and created the Inhumans in that experiment, right?
hmm,
And so because the other humans have been around for so long, they have sexed up the human race. And so there's a lot of potential inhumans out there, right? But in order for that metagene, for lack of a better word, to be activated, you
Yeah.
need the Terrigen Mist, right? And the Terrigen Mist is a controlled substance, normally by the Inhumans, and they sort of, as you get to a certain age, you give yourself to the mist, and the mist sort of make you into a being that's sort of needed by the community, etc.
Yeah.
But something happened, and the mist got out, and all these potential Inhumans that were out there got activated. And Miss Marvel, for example, is one of them. They went into a cocoon. then they came out with new power, right? Not the same as mutants because the source of this is that Kree thing way back. Not to be confused with what is that new Marvel movie coming out soon? Eternals.
Yeah.
Which is another ancient race thing, which were brought about by whatever the super giant creatures that are planet-sized creatures. Celestials. Yeah. So the Celestials made them. So there's a whole bunch of stuff way back when people was testing their stuff in our gene pool. So all that exists. So all of that plus the unique nature of Earth allows all three Inhumans, Inhumans, whatever those other guys are, mutants, all that exists in our planet. But probably because people were squirting into our gene pool way back then, and all of that stuff, over time.
Squirting in our gene. Nice.
I could have gone more graphic.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Gave me a unique visual that I don't really want, but thank you.
I'm a giver.
All right. Coming up on almost an hour and 16 minutes, guys. So I think if you're cool with it, we'll call it. And this has been episode 15 of Corner Comics. Coming up on 20. Any final thoughts?
Keep doing it in the Mighty Marvel manner.
Still not an X-Men fan.
All right. Until next week.
The part where I bring up.
I really want to know. I was debating on whether or not I was going to coax it out of you or try to draw it out of you throughout the episode.